Go.
Streaming from South Africa to the world. This is the Stonks Go Moon Podcast. What just happened? We break it down so you don't have to.
Welcome everyone to the Stonks Go Moon Podcast. Hackers don't sleep, compliance never slows down, and AI, it's now both the threat and the defense. Today's guest sits at the center of it all, building smarter ways to keep businesses safe before the breach even happens. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest today, Jacob O'Brien, founder and CEO of Hakware and XGRC software. Welcome to the pod.
Thank you so much. I'm really honored to be here, and thank you for having me.
Only my pleasure. 15 years in tech, multiple ventures, and now running 2 cybersecurity firms. My man, where do you get the time to sleep? Do you have any children? Do you have any hobbies?
Well, business at this point is my hobby, but I got one little boy and a wife. So. but sleeping comes like third or fourth on the hierarchy.
Just don't take any ketamine, as the tech bros like to do. But let's rewind a bit. When was sort of the moment that you realized, hey, this is what I want to do with a living? Because a lot of people go into tech, but cybersecurity and compliance is quite niche. So when did you know that's what you want to do with your life?
So both of them kind of happened independently. From a compliance perspective, I think most guys in tech already understand, the organization's going to go for like a ISO 27000 or something along those lines. So you kind of get used to it. But what I noticed in my career was every solution out there is firstly boring, and secondly difficult to get to a point where you could use it. So I decided I want to change that, and then XGRC was born. And then Hakware came a little bit afterwards. So I'm struggling to sleep at night having very important customer data on XGRC. So, with my experience or history in cybersecurity, I decided to create something that would allow me to sleep. And that's how Hakware was born.
And then you had a baby. And then the process starts all over again because you're not sleeping. Cool. So I had to go and research what an AI pen test is, or AI doing pen tests, because this to me is a pen, and testing it is writing on a piece of paper to see how it works. So describe to me in layman's terms, what is an AI pen test and why is it so important?
Okay, so firstly, if we look at a pen test, that's essentially an exercise an organization would go through to make sure that they've set up everything very securely. And that can happen in many different forms. It could be physical security, where you physically try and break in, or it could be web application security, which is where Hakware focuses, to make sure that no one can get into your environment from anything external facing, so your websites or anything that you're hosting. What we did with Hakware was creating a model that would do those tests in the same way that we would do a pen test, but just in like a very different way.
How different? Like, just explain to me how different. What's different? Yeah.
So, as an example, if we had to compare Hakware to a traditional pen test, you would get a person that would do that pen test. They might be tired that day. They might not have a great day, so having a fight with their spouse, and all of those factors would affect your pen test. Where Hakware from a model is cold, it'll do exactly what it's supposed to do, and it'll do it exactly the same way, from your almost structured way every single time. So it won't miss anything. So we still recommend pen tests from Hakware, but a pen test also gives you a point in time. So if you do a pen test every year, so at that point in time, you will know that your organization was safe. You've got everything in place, or they'll tell you what to fix. Where Hakware is going to do that daily.
Okay. So what types of organizations ideally have to do a pen test?
So in today's day and age, where specifically compliance standards have gotten so rigorous, if you look at also your legislation, so things like POPI or GDPR, I would recommend every organization that stores data should do a type of pen test. If you're a small mom and pop shop, a pen test is probably not going to be realistic. But any technology organization is the absolute must. You have to do a pen test.
Do you think there are organizations out there, specifically maybe locally, I don't know, internationally, that are skipping those exercises?
Most definitely. seen a lot of organizations where they've been operating for 20, 30 years, and we will be their first pen test. So that does happen. And once you kind of go through your first pen test, everyone will kind of redo it the next year, because the type of vulnerabilities found are so deep within your organization that you want to make sure that no one ever finds them again.
Wow. Okay. So AI, very cool tool. You've got something called Scan and Pray, proactively hunting vulnerabilities. We're always thinking AI first, or was it sort of an afterthought?
So on the Hakware side, AI was born into it. I specifically wanted a separation between traditional scanning tools or vulnerability assessment tools that will use something like a Python script to run and give you a yes or no. I never wanted that. I specifically wanted them to identify things separately. So if you look at the models that we use in something basic like cross-site scripting or SQL injection, those are terms that most people would have heard of but not necessarily understand. So if you take something like that, in a traditional method, it would run and say, yes, you are vulnerable, or no, you're not vulnerable. With our models, it goes into detail. It'll explain that it's been blocked by a WAF, or it'll try it in a different way. So similar to a human, it won't just hammer the same thing over and over again. Its whole purpose is to find a different way to exploit that vulnerability.
Interesting. All right. So let's talk visibility a bit. You've got a product on what that's called OneView. Is that also on Hakware side?
That's correct. Yes.
All right.
So yes.
Yeah. No. I was wanting to learn more about OneView because my research said that it's something about clarity and establishing clarity within data.
So as an example, within any organization, so whether you're small or large, and unfortunately this kind of grows the bigger you become, but you'll have multiple tools popping out notifications from your endpoints or your firewalls. You'll have notifications for days. And it's very difficult. There you go.
Yeah.
It's very difficult for organization to identify what do I need to focus on first. Even for consultancies assisting companies, you spend so much time accumulating information to make a decision on that we wanted to make that instant. So you immediately have a view of your whole organization. So anything IT, OT, or security related is in one place where you can view it, one login where you can see everything, and it just cuts down on time and your decision making.
Jeez, I think I need that for my personal life. Just if I just think about my cell phone and apps going off and just creating so much noise, I can even imagine in a large company, it's going to be even more disconcerting. Right. Let's jump into the compliance side of things. And apologies, this might sound a bit rude, but compliance tools isn't the first thing that I think about when I'm talking about sexy tech. It's most probably a bit boring, but you guys have built something that's seemingly a bit better.
No, 100%. So what we've done is, like I mentioned earlier, is remove the boring, first of all. So, making sure, again, everything happens in one place.
Yeah.
It becomes like a living organism. Everything that you touch and change, guides you on that ISO journey versus someone just giving you a checklist to fill in.
Uh-huh. How many regulations does a small to medium company have to sort of adhere to on a yearly basis? Just give us an idea.
So, I mean, in general, it's actually quite substantial. I mean, regulations like GDPR and POPI are going to apply to you whether you've just started or whether you're a well-founded organization. That's unfortunately the case. And then regulations like ISO become very important for us to make sure that whatever you purchase, that little ISO logo gives you the confidence to say they've gone through the right checks and balances. I can trust the product and I can trust what they're telling me because someone else has verified that. So for small organizations, you're still going to need to focus on the kind of legislation side that counts for everyone. But as you kind of move up in that food chain, we want to supply to large organizations. ISO becomes the staple for what you need to comply to. And your XGRC, in that sense, kind of guides you through the process. So it almost makes it as simple as long as you're kind of filling in everything on the system, you're becoming ISO compliant.
Okay, cool. You gave a talk recently that I saw at Microsoft Seasons of AI on ransomware and AI. What sort of the biggest point that you made that shocked people? What were people not aware of?
That's the thing. I think the biggest thing that kind of blew people away was how quickly you could create a little bot that kind of causes excessive damage. And we use something in what's called the OWASP top 10. So that would generally be the core organization that you look at to see what are the 10 things right now that we should be scared of as a software company.
Yeah.
And we in that little talk that took about 15 minutes, we used ChatGPT and built a model that will go and find server-side request forgery items in organizations in EU. And it is so quick and so effective. Everyone's kind of thinking like it would take weeks or days, or you need to be like excessively smart to build it out. And that's kind of what you're seeing in the industry. Cybercriminals are using tools like that to pop out something quite quickly and cause excessive amounts of mayhem.
Geez, so we're so used to think AI is generative AI, whereas you can actually build a minimum viable product for very cheap, and then your brain goes, "Oh, okay, cool. So we're just going to use it for good." Then, no, there are a whole little subset of criminals. Now,
Yes.
moving on from I am a Nigerian prince. Please send me $50 and I will tell you where the gold is buried.
No, 100%. Because in the past, you'd be able to pick up on spelling mistakes, or it would be something consistent like your Nigerian prince. And now you've got something that will fix the tool, or like fix spelling mistakes, create a new story for you. So like it becomes a lot more difficult to identify if it's a human or if it's a scam.
Jeez. Okay. So what's sort of your what do you think you've done differently as a leader in these two companies? Because I see you picked up CEO Monthly's award as most influential CEO in Eastern Cape for 2024. That's a massive achievement in this country. What have you done differently in the industry than your peers?
If I think of what I've done differently, I would say that I lead from the trenches. So I still code. So I'm there with every engineer. I'll assist and support. I'll still make sure I meet on both companies, every partner, at least once every couple of months. So I'm not kind of sitting in a different area, only focusing on strategy. I'm physically getting my hands dirty, and the teams can see that. They know that I can relate to them because I'm doing what they're doing as well. And it's always good to still show you've got what it takes to lay down some code.
Keep the pencil sharp, so to speak. What's your feeling on this term vibe coding, which is basically just using AI tools to tinker around with ideas? I mean, it's sort of a buzzword at the moment. I understand you still need to be able to know how to code, how the fundamentals work, and everything. But saying that, we are seeing interesting things popping out.
See, the thing is, getting to a minimum viable product or MVP is one thing, but vibe coding in an actual application becomes frightening. And the reason for that is you've got multiple people pushing in code, and if something breaks, you're going to need to know how to fix it, specifically if it's in production. You're going to have customers that are going to be waiting for this fix to be resolved. And if it's something that kind of pulls down the environment, you're going to be in very hot water. So, I would make sure, again, AI is fantastic to use as a tool, but it can't be the dev or the engineer doing the work because you need to understand what it's doing. So if you're stuck in a problem, kind of giving my age away at this point, but for me, I'd have to use something called IntelliSense, which means you type a word, press spacebar, and they'll give you a few options of what you might have meant. And then later you got Stack Overflow or Stack Exchange, where people would go to find answers. And now people just use ChatGPT, which is great because you can get to that solution quicker. I think you just need to understand what solution you're putting into your environment.
But don't you think if they're going that route, it makes the vulnerabilities that much more scarier?
Yes, because essentially, immediately, if you don't know what you've put into that environment. You don't know how it works. You just know it works, which is a whole different conversation. But that is where things become critical, because you can't understand how to fix vulnerabilities if you don't understand what you've put into that application.
But on the other hand, it makes cybersecurity that much more valuable going forward, because if in this AI environment and these tools that we're pushing, we need more companies like yours more than ever.
Oh, that is a positive as someone being in the cybersecurity industry. We've actually even created a module that will review your code, and it will pick up different things like AI generated code. Cool. If you're leaving any kind of vulnerable elements in your code base, because it's become such a large thing, organizations are scared of what's being pushed out into their production environments.
Awesome. Jacob, thank you so much for joining me today. If the listeners want to go and connect with you and find out more about what it is that your companies do, and maybe I would strongly suggest get a pen test done, where can they do that?
So they can reach me on any of the socials. I'm always Jacob O'Brien, something with a 3. So you'll spot me immediately. And so people can reach out, whether it's LinkedIn, Twitter, or X now, or to go directly to our website, which is hakware.com. We're always keen to chat to anyone. A lot of people just reach out with questions, so we're always friendly and willing to help out. So make contact.
Awesome, man. It's got cool posters in its background. That's a good bonus. Jacob, we'll put all the comments up. We'll put all the links in the comments. Thank you so much for joining me today. And to our listeners, peace, love, and prosperity. I will catch you in the next one. Cheers.